allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Mr. Cashin? Here. Mrs. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Traver? Here. Mr. Trainer?
Here.
And Ms. Rickon? Here. All right, first thing for the meeting tonight is the approval of the agenda for this meeting. Any additions, Mike?
Yes, on page 9, it's not in there, we'll have to add this. We want to meet resignation, number 4 there. And that's all I have.
Motion to approve.
Sorry. Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Rickon?
Yes.
All right, next item is the approval of the minutes from the June 22nd, 2021 regular meeting. Draft copy was sent out for that. And there were a couple of small changes to the advances and transfers, but nothing significant. No additional transfers or advances, just the amounts I had to tweak from June 22nd to June 30th. But nothing.
Motion approved.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Rickon?
Yes.
Okay, back to you, Ron.
All right. Any audience members who have commentary for us? Yes. All right, we begin with Kevin for our middle school report. How things are going for the summer then?
July is always a good month. Be about 20 more days, be better. No, things are going well. Custodian's doing a really good job with the building. Both buildings, middle school, high school, so they're making real good progress, so we're pleased with that. Library, middle school library flooring is supposed to be installed, I believe, tomorrow or Thursday. Get started on that, so pleased with that. Other than that, just I know may not be here the whole meeting, so if you could just, that transportation manual, although we have some of those pieces in place, it's nice to have one document that the drivers can refer to if they ever have an issue. And one of our drivers, Sandy Merritt, put that together, so just has my name on it. So that's it.
All right. Move it down the line. Cody?
Sure, yeah. June 30th, state came out with their test results, and our teachers did phenomenal. They did a great job. There was some obvious COVID downward trends, but when you compared us to the other schools in the area, which I can get that to you, we're top in most of the categories, and that's just hard work and effort from our teachers and administrators. So I'm very proud of the work that they did, and I'll get that data to you so you guys can see the comparable data. We did fantastic when we compared it to districts around our area. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Lauren, you got anything for us? Nothing? Holly? Any union news or anything you
No
can share?
union news, but the GTEC Summit is coming up in a couple of weeks, and it is a jam-packed day of lots of great presenters, and I'm so grateful for Christine and Tom and whoever else is involved in getting all that together, because it's such a great thing that we put on, and people from all over the country attend virtually because it's easier. But it's great, and I'm really excited, and it's a good way to get our wheels turning again and thinking towards school and how to change and implement our instruction to just keep better and better. So other than that, that's it. So not much else to report.
Anything the board can do to support the event or anything like that?
You'd have to ask Christine, I'm not sure. I'm just a behind the scenes person running sessions and stuff. She's really the brainchild of all of it, but I believe she has everything under control. So, yep. So all good here.
right, any other input from any of our guests? And Ben, you got anything you'd like to share, or did you want to?
I got a to-do list for Mr. Ferguson, got me mine passed on. So most of it's done, but as the high school, there's always something to do. It's consolidated about 3 pages between now and whenever August rolls around. I want people to know about these that exist. I've hoarded all of these to keep them safe. I have, if there is a copy of every past yearbook that exists. All of them are hardbound, except for this one. This is the Echo from 1926. So this is the only one that I have that looks like this. There's some really neat history in here. I think there were 21 graduates in the 1926 class, some of which of the names have not changed. Many of the businesses have not changed as well. So there's just some really neat things in here. I'm going to pass this one over as well because I would not want this one to stay in the building. This is probably case-worthy since it's the only one like this. The next oldest I think I have over there is of 28, but in 28 they started to actually hardback these. So this is the last one that looks like that. Where those go from here, I don't know, but I would think that those should be preserved in some way. There's some really neat history there. I just want to say thank you in person. Thank you.
Well, I know I wanted to say thank you for all your effort all over the years, coaching and your various roles for the district. Obviously, we're sorry to see you go and sad about it. But we also know that you got a plan and you got a family and you got to look out for it, and we understand that. And just wanted to say thanks on behalf of, at least for myself. Board members want to chime in, they can, but just thank you for a ridiculously difficult couple of years, right? A couple of school seasons that we needed some good leadership, and you provided some great events and great effort, and so we appreciate it. Thank you.
You left your mark. We'll never have graduation inside without rain again. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that when Jack graduated?
Any questions from the public or anything, Tom, from the online or anybody viewing or anything like that?
We have none right now.
None right now? Okay, we'll turn it over to our treasurer for our treasurer report. Go ahead, Bill.
All right. First thing I want to talk about before I get into the actual report, every July you're supposed to have a public hearing on our special education funding from the feds. 2-minute spiel on that. Our federal funding in total, our special ed funding in total expenditures is about 1.4, 1.5 million per year. We receive about $250,000 of federal funding, a little less than 20% of our total need comes from federal dollars. So kind of give you an idea of what we do receive from the feds. 100% of the 257,000 we're receiving for this fiscal year 22 coming up. 100% is used for salaries and offset salaries. So just kind of give you an idea of what comes from the feds and funding and what our overall expenditures are for special education. Give you an idea. So just wanted to start off with that. Actual compared to budget for the month of June. Finally get to month 12 and see obviously the full picture for fiscal year 21. Not much to talk about in the revenue section for the month. Year to date, we had 3 line items that significantly outpaced budget. Real estate taxes came in very well. We had over $80,000 of additional delinquency and foreclosure dollars that I wasn't expecting. At one time, about 5 or 6 years ago, over 8% of our real estate taxes were in a delinquent or foreclosed status. The county's really worked to reduce that, and at this point, we're under 2%. So I don't think we're going to get an influx of money like this again, at least for delinquencies and foreclosures. But that's the reason why the real estate line ended up favorably. The other lines, one of the line items that ended favorably, we had the Bureau of Workers' Comp refunds. One of them was almost $120,000. That's unheard of. We have not had that. It's a one-time thing. We probably won't receive that again. And also, positive open enrollment. Open enrollment continues to increase, and we're been a big benefactor of that. The foundation lines, the third line in the revenue section that outpaced budget, that was due to the state actually reducing their initial reduction in funding at the beginning of the year. They gave us a little bit of the money back halfway through the year, so that was another aspect that made that line item a favorable one. Overall, just under $472,000 to the favorable, to the good, compared to budget in the revenue section. The expenditure section, really only one line item to talk about for the month. Each of the other line items were very close to budget. But purchase services, I was actually able to slide some expenditures out of general fund and over to ESERS, the federal funding that we received, COVID monies, to the tune of a little over $300,000. I was able to do the LPL or PLP online. I was able to do our long-term subs and also our nursing, our sub-nursing that Melissa Edens did for us. All that was able to be slid into the COVID dollars. So it really helped us in that respect. Year-to-date, basically two line items really stood out. The fringe benefit line was the first one. We had a better than usual year for health insurance. I budgeted about a 12% increase. We only had a 7.5%. So for every percent lower, it's about $10,000 savings. So the majority of that fringe benefit line benefited from a lesser increase in health insurance. The purchase services line, aside from the items I took out for COVID that I just spoke about, there was a couple of small items in purchase services. Special ed came in actually a little bit lower than I had expected. Usually special ed has gone up by 6 figures at times. We went from 1.397 million to about 1.44, so about 50,000 increase this year in comparison to previous years. So that line item benefited from a lesser increase in special ed costs. Overall, $514,000 favorable variance in the expenditures. We did unfortunately have more advances and transfers than usual. We usually don't have any transfer to athletics. We did have that. We had a larger than usual advance to food service than we usually do. So overall, I had a budget of deficit spending of $730,000. The final ended at $223,000 of deficit spending. So we did a lot better than I had suspected. However, still deficit spend, $223,000. I have started. I have a majority of the budget ready for this coming fiscal year 22. This is not definitive, so don't hold me to this. But right now it looks as being between probably $400,000 and $500,000 of deficit spending, pending a few tweaks here and there for fiscal year 22. But this is fiscal year 21, and like I said, we're the benefactors of some federal funding for COVID, but that helped us out, and unfortunately we still have deficit spending. I did provide a little bit more of a detailed sheet to everyone. It gives you a line-by-line item of, well, this is what the budget was supposed to be, this is where it ended, why did it end where it ended. And that can kind of give you a guidance line by line of where things landed. So questions, comments on fiscal year 21?
I'd just like to say, to you, thanks for, one, having a conservative approach to your budgeting. Budgeting's tough, and, that hopefully everybody can see, if they, look at the sheet, that, there's just things you just can't predict. Obviously the pandemic affected a lot of things, and so affected budgets and all that stuff, but, just wanted to say thanks for, having a conservative approach, even though, it looks like, well, we missed the budget. Well, there are a lot of factors that come into play that there's no way to anticipate. And so,
A lot of one-time items that we've never had, and I didn't even have on my radar, especially like that Bureau of Workers' Comp. We've received some, refunds before in the, 15 or 20 or maybe $25,000 range, never $120,000. And I don't expect that to ever happen again. So, those are things that really, you never know. So, okay, good enough. I do have only one item for board approval. We have one of our students that needs vision impaired services. This student is a junior. We've had this before. We receive vision impaired services from Midwest Regional ESC in the amount of a little over $2,800. I just ask that you consider approving this agreement for the fiscal year 2020. Mr. Cashin?
yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Travers?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Regnall?
Yes.
There are two more items. I won't take too much, I'd like to just discuss. First and foremost, the biennial budget for fiscal year 22 and 23 was passed by the state. The Fair School Funding Plan that we've talked about before actually was passed in its entirety, pretty much. It was supposed to be passed with a 6-year phase-in. Unfortunately, the phase-in is only going to be 2 years, and then they're going to try to do the next 2 years, So we'll see how the biennial budget comes along. The Fair School Funding Plan, albeit doesn't provide a change in our bottom line very much. The first year of the Fair School Funding Plan, the funding addition is $78,000, give or take. And then the second year will be an additional $7,000 on top of that. So it's not a game changer by no means. However, when I was talking to Mike before, he asked me what I thought about it. I said, well, at least we're going in the right direction. We're not, just what we went through the last 2 years of actually having a reduction. We're moving forward and providing additional funding, albeit not a lot. I'm okay with that, at least temporarily right now. Hopefully, this Fair School Funding Plan will benefit us going forward in the long run. I don't think this is the cure to our ills when it comes to going out for levies. I think that will still occur, but hopefully it won't be as consistent. Well, maybe not as often, I guess, is what I'm going to say. So that's kind of the Fair School Funding and biennial budget. The only other thing in there is a $50 million set aside for the purchase of new school buses. The previous biennial budget had $20 million in it, and we were able to receive $40,000 for a bus, so about half a bus. So hopefully we'll be able to receive, I'm hoping, about the equivalent to purchase of one bus. So that'll help us continue with our fleet improvement in that respect. So
Give an update on the status of the fleet.
I'm sorry?
You want to get an update on the status
Yeah,
of the
just,
fleet?
we have, 13 buses I think we have. Within the last 4 or 5 years, we have 70 buses within the last 5 years. With this, this year, I think it's 2 years from now, we'll have an opportunity to get 3 more buses, and then if we get this one, we do 4. So that'd be 11 in about 7 years. The plan is, once we get up to speed, which we're getting there, is just have 1 bus per year, have it turn over in 13 years essentially. We just took I think it was two 1997 buses off the fleet this last time. So that kind of gives you an idea. Some of our buses are pretty old. So we're going to try to get that, instead of 20 or so years as our oldest, we like to have it maybe 14 or 15 years as our oldest. So that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish. And also we're trying, I'm sorry?
Take them down to the car show.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah, and we're also trying, we're working on getting a fuel depot out here so we can have our fuel on campus. That's being worked on also. And the last thing I had for the board is the Capital Conference that happens in November. It is back on. I believe it's November 7th through the 9th. Don't quote me on that. But if you're interested, just let me know, and I will work on giving you the information on that. It is, 7th through the 9th, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I just want to let you know that. That's all I have.
All right, well, thank you, Bill. I mean, we continue to wrestle with the finances of the district, of course, and hat tip to you for staying on top of it and looking for opportunities to add revenue and, cut, expenses here and there and do what we can from our end of things. Big shout out, public shout out to our boosters who continue to support and raise money. And when I say boosters, not only the people, the group that our names are in the seats of hierarchy of the boosters, but really our boosters are this community, and they continue to step up and support and do amazing things. We got a track installed. We have a renovation ongoing, but much of it completed in the athletic complex to upgrade what is an overdue upgrade to the facility over there. All private money and all supported by this community. By private dollars. Not a cent comes from our budget, and so I just want to be thankful and grateful to the community for their continued support of giving our kids the best facilities we can provide. And it's a big deal. And so on behalf of the board, I just want to make sure everybody knew that those private dollars are important to what we do, and continued efforts to seek out new streams of funding and new ways to save money. Their continued out of pocket writing checks is commendable, admired, and appreciated. So, just wanted to say that. Mike, your report?
Yes, page 9.
Before we do, can I just suggest we bring in for recognition in August the folks who ran the soccer fundraiser. It's super creative, and the majority of the money coming in is from outside of our community, so it isn't our traditional ask of our local businesses and folks. It is extremely profitable fundraiser, but I just think that story should be told. They raised the last 2 they raised a lot of money for the program, and they've done it without asking our local community to do it. So they're bringing in schools and teams from all over to come in and play. They pay to play, parents pay to get in, they pay for the park, they pay for everything. And it's great because it's not a strain on us locally, and it's a lot of fun to come in. So I think it's
a lot of people into our community.
Yeah.
If any of you are around that day uptown, trying to go to Ray's for lunch or Ignite or anything like that, there were people everywhere that need to go to lunch between games and everything. It brought a little economic windfall for the small businesses in our community, over that time. And we need to be thinking about things like that. We have a lot to offer this community, and the businesses certainly benefit. If we're gonna go to them and ask them to support what we do, it's nice to be able to provide something that can put some money in their cash registers as well.
It was packed downtown.
I mean, it was hardly any parking. It's really cool.
Before Mike does his, I didn't know, Ron, you said last board meeting you wanted to kind of give a little, committee kind of.
Oh, yeah, I'll say it's on the committees, yeah, thank you.
report. One thing I wanted to point out on Diane Gerkenmeyer is retiring after 25 years on the Scholarship Foundation. 13 years ago, she served as president. I would like to recognize her at one of our board meetings. Because her schedule does allow, she doesn't probably want all visits and land, but she is really a backbone of that foundation and just does an amazing job along with the rest of the team. So,
Can you extend the invitation?
I would definitely do that.
All right.
And then let you know. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you. Yeah, our continued effort to make sure we have active committees is important too, so we're going to continue to mention it, just hold all of our feet to the fire that we are holding those meetings and looking for new ideas and new ways to continue to move the district forward. So those committees are there for a reason, and we need to have regular reports. Mike?
Okay, page 9. The board approved the following there as listed regarding the resignations.
Second, and I'll just say thank you to Yolanda. I know she's not here, but she's been wonderful since she's been on staff.
One of the other colleague members.
Yep.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Rickman?
Yes.
Okay, on page 10, the board approved the employment of the following supportive personnel as listed in both sections there.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Rickman?
Yes. That's right in the middle, yeah.
Okay, on page 11. The board approved the employment of the following certificated personnel as listed there. And probably shakiest one might be number 1 on the bottom, but we'll be okay.
Can we separate number 2 on the bottom, please?
Okay. So let's do it. Let's just do 1 and 2 on the top and 1 and 3 in the bottom.
Motion to approve 1 and 2 at the top and 1 and 3 at the bottom.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Rickman?
Yes.
So I need the board to approve number 2 on the bottom.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
No.
Mr. Rickman?
No.
Okay, on page 12. The board to approve attendance at professional meetings as listed there.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Traver?
Yes.
Mr. Trainer?
Yes.
And Mr. Rickman?
Yes.
On page 14. The board to approve number 1 there, open enrollments. It's listed listed in the handout there. Our numbers are actually continuing to grow. We're at 203. A couple more on my desk. So people want to be here and keeps growing.
What's that put us on?
We don't know how many are going out yet.
Do you know what the kindergarten class is at?
Thank you, that was my question.
Ron's been out this week, but as of last count, they were at 95 or 96.
Motion to approve.
Sorry.
Mr. Cashin,
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Travis,
Yes.
Mr. Trainer,
Yes.
and Mr. Egnor.
Yes.
Number 2, I need the board to approve in lieu of transportation for students listed there.
Motion. Second.
Mr. Cashin,
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Travis,
Yes.
Mr. Trainer,
Yes.
and Mr. Egnor.
Yes.
Number 3, I need the board to approve memorandum of understanding between the Genoa board and GAEA, and this is for reviewing supplemental positions of high school middle school esports, middle school robotics, and elementary robotics.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Cashin,
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Travis,
Yes.
Mr. Trainer,
Yes.
and Mr. Egnor.
Yes.
Need the board to approve number 4, their transportation manual.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Cashin,
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Travis,
Yes.
Mr. Trainer,
Yes.
and Mr. Egnor.
Yes.
Need the board number 5 there, approve those volunteers as listed.
Just for future, can we get if they're level 1 or level 2? I mean, I know these are obviously all, but I just want to make sure. So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cashin,
Yes.
Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Travis,
Yes.
Mr. Trainer,
Yes.
and Mr. Egnor.
Yes.
Okay, and the last thing there was proposed fee policy. I sent that out to you earlier today. Last board meeting, we approved part of that policy, or become a part of that policy.
No, yeah.
Sure it's on everybody's phone, but. And it's listed there as approved, discussed, and this might warrant further discussion, so we don't include it tonight, we approve it off the this board meeting. So, basically what's missing there is what is in the fine print that I sent to you, what's missing in this one. And that was just further detail that's in our current policy. So, I think what I want feedback on this is that, we've always had these conversations about fees and how we collect them. We're always going, at the end of the year, we've always got a large number of, outstanding fees. And, we obviously have some, limitations as far as what we can do to convince people. And what it's typically come down to always is pay to participate. We can obviously say you can't play, can't practice. When it comes to the rest of everything, the only thing we've ever had is can't walk at graduation. That's really the only thing. We can't hold people back from moving on to the next grade. We can't, there's just limitations to what we can do that I guess really convince people to pay. So as a result, we have these large numbers that are coming in, and it's always a challenge for the high school to collect fees at the end of the year. And it comes down to literally to the last day, the day of graduation sometimes. And we had about 6, I think, that didn't walk this year, and some of those had outstanding fees, and we never collect those. So, with that being said, we've got to, kind of come up with a way to, lay it down the law, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, lay down the law a little bit earlier in the process. And these are suggestions, ideas that I have here, so I'm going to read through them, but there's, obviously the audience here doesn't have copies of this, but, so students are required to pay their school fees at the beginning of each school year, and this is kind of standard copy. If a student has unpaid pays at the end of a grading period, they will not be issued a grade card. Parking passes, if applicable, will be revoked, and access to Progress Book online will be blocked. Students who also owe fees will not be allowed to attend school dances or participate in field trips. The one there that might be questionable is access to Progress Book, and I think that's more in terms of parents not being able to see that, but this is going to require obviously more oversight from day one in kindergarten. This is going to require every building to, have the responsibility of saying, sorry, you can't A, B, C, D because these are still outstanding. So you have to decide how heavy do we want to come down on people. That's the big question there.
Yeah, I think Progress Book would be probably a stretch too far from me, simply because so few grades go home in a scored paper anymore, especially once you get to middle school and high school. And I think that could be a child isn't going to be able to pay their bill. And I just think we're just asking for less support from our parents at home in that situation. That would be the one, like if we were sending papers home with grades on them every time, I would probably be okay with it, but we don't. That is the way you know how your child is doing, how they did on that test. That is the way you see that. And, we had some complaints earlier this year from a parent, I can't remember who, about not getting papers home. They didn't know how their kids were doing because they weren't techie. And I'm like, well, there are no papers. They're doing their tests online. They're doing their tests on devices. So to remove that, I think is probably just a bridge too far.
All of our students are capable of logging out with their parents, so I don't know. I think Progress was definitely should.
And, as I said, open suggestion, this is a tough nut to crack. It's just, you don't want to punish kids for, parents not keeping up with things, but.
But we've also been very receptive to having a workout payment plan, so
Absolutely.
as long as we are being notified if there's an issue, there won't be any issues of attending dances and field trips unless it is on hand. So we've been very clear and transparent with that, so.
And it has it at the bottom. Yeah. I think that's, everything else looks pretty safe.
First, I'd like to open up for discussion, the idea, if the agreed to installments are more than 10 days late, the installment plan, if an installment plan is put into place, the installment plan may be forfeited at the discretion of the treasurer. I think that, from my perspective, it puts Bill in a really difficult spot.
Is it the word discretion?
Yeah, I don't.
What I did do, I sent a little revision to the bill here. Okay, so what?
I would just maybe eliminate that completely.
Okay.
And the installment, it already says the installment plan may be forfeited, and the student will lose the above privileges until everything's caught up, until everything's brought current.
Yeah.
And then
just want to omit the discretion of the treasurer.
Yeah, I don't want Bill in the position to have to make those calls on a case-by-case basis, and it puts him in a position of looking like he's picking and choosing winners and losers, as to who gets forfeited and who doesn't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's one of the suggestions that I passed on to Bill here earlier today. Just to, one of the things that he was a little more comfortable with is, district will require a minimum of 10% down payments. This is with a plan now, with the balance being paid over a 6-month period. So, you know, it's I think
I do have a little bit of a tweak I want to do that, but.
okay, so that's kind of the idea here. One of the things that Bill's been dealing with, and speaking for Bill a little bit here, is he has set up some plans, but he hasn't got follow through. So, you know, that's again, you know, having to spell it out a little more specifically than just saying there's a plan in place. Here's the parameters of the plan. So the plan by the time. Yeah. Yeah.
But if the plan isn't followed, then the plan is suspended until it's brought current. There's no plan, all the activities stop until it's brought current. Resume the plan.
All right, I don't know if there's anything else. Maybe there's a lot of.
Only thing I was going to do really small tweaking things here. It says, district will require a minimum of 10% down payment with the balance being paid. I would like to put equally, the balance being paid equally over a maximum of 6 months. It could be paid over 3 months or whatnot, but.
Yeah, you're giving them some
I don't
flexibility.
want them to pay the whole thing at the end of 6 months. That's why I kind of put it paid equally over that 6 months, so we're continuing to get money in there, so they don't come back to me in 5 months and say, well, you know, I still have $500 to pay. Well, you could have been paying $100 for the last 5 months. You know, so it's, you know, I'd rather be consistent with what they're, so like a payment of a car, a house, or anything else, so you're not, you know, that's kind of how.
Only said that payment plans, could be said that you have progress club, that they can go in and like, go, they can find, I'll pay this amount.
The money, or the expense that they still owe is in pay for it. So they can pay that at any point, at any time. It's all about enforcement. It's just not happening. We really haven't had that carrot to hold them. Especially, like I said, I had, you know, people saying, oh yeah, I will pay, I will pay, I will pay. Just let my son or daughter walk. They walk, the carrot's gone.
So do we tell them when they set their payment plan that they can pay by check, cash, or card, not that the check or cash comes to the board office?
Yeah, they can, we tell them they can go online at any time and pay it through there. That's where you pay by your credit card, or your ACH goes through on your checking account. They can bring a check here, they can bring cash here, but only here. I don't want them to give it to the principal, I don't want to give it to the superintendent. Really, the only person I wanted to give it to would be superintendent secretary. That they put it into the receipt book. So, you know, if an 8th grader is in here paying something, they don't come 4 years, oh, I already didn't pay that, I already paid that. We'll know if they paid it or not. If they come and say, well, I paid that by cash in 2020, this is the only place you'd be paying by cash. You wouldn't be giving it to anybody else.
I just didn't know if we wanted to add maybe that verbiage in there, just to.
We can. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that. I know that when we put stuff in the common communicator, it already states that exactly.
This is just, you know, in writing
Correct.
here, so.
Correct.
So we can make those tweaks, and then we can put it through next month's board meeting. If you have any other thoughts along the way.
One more thing.
Yeah.
Bill, is there a reason you're settling on 6 months as the max kind of amortization of it?
I don't.
If you go like 9 months, which is, you know, kind of a calendar That just allows them to stretch it, because, you know, like a $500 debt, for example, gets down to like $55 a month, they went over 9.
I'm not set on any true period. We actually, initially it was 5.
Could you take the word 6 out and just say equal payments throughout the agreed term?
We probably,
that just gives
you
you-
could put a max term on there.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not
months.
married to anything there.
Yeah.
I'm okay
But
with
it gives them the, to choose, if they want to do it in 3 months, they can, you know, they
Sure.
would, they just need to just.
I just wanted to put a
time.
max, we get at least.
Yeah, totally.
But if, you know, if you stretch it out a little bit, obviously, they get a little smaller bites, maybe.
Especially if they have to pay an existing, you know, because the fee will continue to grow. Yeah, they're coming in behind 500, but then they've got this year's school fees plus, you know, pay to play, so.
I'm fine with anything that, just so it's enforced.
Yeah, right, that's.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question. What triggers this? So like, let's say I don't pay my kids' school fees to start the year, when does this bump in? I guess that's the question. Is this when I've gone a full calendar year for not paying? Do you understand what I'm saying? So, I mean,
There's gotta be a due date.
Right.
Fees are due, and after the due date, we have to have some kind of, either the fees get paid, or you're on plan.
So when are all the fees due for this school year?
That's a good question. I think you,
So the due date would be the day after that.
yeah, well, technically, what's already in the writing is they're supposed to be paid in the time of registration or enrollment. They don't necessarily always have that information. So it's like the secretary's not gonna put the school fees online until they come back, until probably that second week that they're back. Then all the school fees, they'll know at that point.
So you're a week into the session already, what you're saying, at least, right?
Yeah, well, then the week that they come back, but as far, I would say, you know, the first week, by the end of the first or second week of school, everything should be squared up. That would be my thought on that. So that
Do 30 days from the first day of school.
we could, I think, you know, the longer we let it go and you want to go set up a plan, the shorter that time is going to be then for them to pay it off. You know, it's not going to be, we want those paid then in the end of the school year.
I think 30 days is too long if you get kids playing sports and other stuff.
Well, we separated out from what we passed last board meeting, we separated the pay to participate, so that's not gonna change. That's still hard and fast. So, and we have that built-in enforcement, because, yeah.
Related question, how are fee collections going right now for like
The pay to participate, I don't know, it's not great at this point.
I think we only have like 26.
My hope is to have,
Pre-days in sports.
yeah,
For this fall.
We have a coaches meeting, or a parent meeting.
26 paid?
Yeah, the parent meeting
Yep.
is.
I think that's
That's
Thursday.
Right, tryouts for the fall sports though, they're not, happening until first week of August. They'll come in here.
So, yeah, like most
Well,
of them,
I think
are August 2nd.
Cody said the sports meeting is on Thursday, so until then.
Yes.
That's when you're informed, you're open, basically.
So it's coming.
and then they should be able to access the, on school, pay school here, hopefully by the end of the week. Should be able to access those, yeah. Okay. All right, we'll make those tweaks and get those back out to you for any further consideration or feedback. And I believe that's it for me.
Any other comments from the board or? Yes. Well, we will be going into executive session to discuss the employment of public employees, and there will be no votes taken. Manager?
Just need a motion to go in.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Cashin. Mrs. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Trevor.
Yes.